Welcome to my new shop space. If you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you know that my shop has been in the basement of my house. The thing is I've pushed my 600 square foot shop in my basement to its limits. I'm extremely grateful that I had that space to start in, and I'm gonna continue to use it. As you will see here later on in the video, most of my tools are going to remain down there. But when I got these larger machines, I knew it was time that I needed more space. Something needed to change. All right, so I wanna tell you how I got here. And I wanna back up 8 months ago and start from there. So at the beginning of this year, one of the things on my list was to get some additional space somehow. The first thing was I looked at building a shop about a 30 by 40 or around that size shop in my backyard. Now, to set the scene a little bit, we live in the city limits and we live on about a half an acre. We do have a backyard that has space in it to build a building like that. So I started jumping through the hoops. I contacted the city and asked them about the requirements and figure out setbacks and property lines. And so this went on for several months and I spent some money on it. So after those first 2 steps, I figured out it was feasible to build here. So I reached out to a few builders and started working on design and cost and getting estimates, and went as far as having the contract in my hand and all I have to do is sign the line, and I would have had a building, a shop in my backyard right next to the house in a matter of days. After going through that process and gathering all that information, my wife and I sat down and thought long and hard and prayed whether this was the time to build this building or not. After a little while, we both felt that it wasn't the right time, nor do we think it's necessarily the right place. It just didn't feel right. So we decided to go with Plan B, and this is Plan B. It's our attached garage that we've always had. It's about 20 by 24 feet. Prior to this, we parked both of our vehicles in here. So side note, part of this negotiation was my wife still wanted to park her vehicle in here. So I decided to park mine outside and so we could have this space. So this is designed around that. She can still pull in here and park in here, and we can have all of this in here as well. So that is how we arrived here. So let me take you around and show you what I've done and how I've set it up. All the items that I'll be talking about today will be linked in the description below, so you can check those out. And then a little later on, I'm gonna tell you about my new laser that I got. I've told you about the Avid CNC, and I've done a series on that, setting it up, but I've got another tool in here as well. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing I wanna tell you about is these lights. Now I picked these up off Amazon. They're the same lights that Matt Outlaw uses in his shop, 731 Woodworks. Thanks, Matt, for directing me towards these. But they're 8-foot Berea lights. They're 5K temperature, and I've got 8 of them in here. And it's one of the biggest differences that you'll see in this shop versus my old space. And that's one thing I really wanted. I wanted a lot of light. And so as you can see, it is very, very bright in here. So one thing that I wanted is I wanted them all on a switch. So all of them will turn off and on at the same time. So the way that these are wired up is I took a power strip and plugged it into a connector that screws into the light fixture where you can plug it in to the light fixture. So the power strip is plugged into the light fixture, and that is what controls all of them turning off and on. All right, the next thing I want to show you is dust collection. Now, I went back and forth a lot on this and trying to figure out what would look good in the space, and I didn't want it taking up a lot of space. There are a lot better systems out there, but for cost and simplicity, this is only going to one machine, to the CNC. So this is gonna be plenty. So what I did is I bought a buddy's old dust collection system, and it was way too big for this space. I didn't know, I bought it way before I put any of this in here. But what I did was I took the dust collector. So this is the $200 dust collector from Harbor Freight. And I just put a bag on it. Just got this off Amazon, bought it separately. It's a 3 micron bag from Dust Right, and basically mimicked Dust Right's $800 setup. So we mounted this to a wall, mounted it to a board first so we could mount it into 2 studs in the wall, and then the 4-inch hose I ran along and around so it's can be hooked up to the CNC. Some people say, wow, this bag is really small, and it is. But again, it's only going to one machine. It's going to the CNC. It has a zipper in the bottom, so I don't actually have to take this off at all. I'm hoping I can just unzip the bottom and then put a container underneath it, unzip the bottom, drop it out, zip it back up. I'm hoping it's that simple. I know like emptying these dust bags is not the funnest thing in the world, but that's what I came up with, and I think I'm gonna be happy with it for this space. All right, so I did have to install 2 new circuits for electrical in order for this setup to work. For the CNC, the spindle requires a 220 volt outlet. Luckily, a couple years ago when I had the electrical work done in my basement shop, I had them put in a 220 outlet setup, and it was just, the wire was just in the attic, and it wasn't on or anything, but it was basically the infrastructure was there. So it was really easy. All I had to do was reroute that wire down here and wire in that outlet. So I highly recommend, if you're looking to do anything or grow in the future, is to try to think in advance. You can save yourself so much time. And then the other outlet I will talk about here in a second when I tell you about the laser. All right, another thing that we did was buy this storage rack and set it up. This is specifically, it's still a work in progress as far as organization, but the main goal was to get all of our extra shipping supplies, all of our extra wood. Like we have, I'll tell you about a product that we make here in a second when we get to the laser, and we cut 20-inch blanks, which that's gonna change now. It's gonna be like 38-inch blanks. But anyways, so we can prep all that material. Usually we would have that in the office in a closet in there. So we got everything out of the closet, everything out of that office that can go out here that we don't use often, but you need to have it ready. Also, finished products can go out here. If we have any back stock, all of our shipping material, like I said, any stock or any CNC parts are up here right now. But this is going to allow my office to be an office and not be as much storage. So that is really nice. All right, so let me tell you about this new machine in the shop. This is the Thunder Laser Nova 35 100 watt. So 100 watt laser. In comparison, the Glowforge is a 40 watt laser, and the 35 is the 35-inch bed width this way. All right, so you might be wondering, Andy, why do you need this big of laser? This seems kind of like overkill. Don't you just do CNC router stuff? Well, something that I don't talk a lot about, because it's kind of my wife's gig. I help her with it, and it is part of the business. This lantern right here, which you can currently find it on our website in Etsy. We designed this lantern and have been selling this lantern now for 2 fall seasons. So last fall and this fall. To date, we've sold over 250. We'll probably end up selling 300 of them. We'll cross the 300 mark by the end of this fall season. It's just fall leaves, but it lights up, and it's a really cool custom lantern. We have cut all 250 of those on the Glowforge, which the Glowforge is a fantastic machine. I don't have any problems with the Glowforge, but any machine, when you push it past its abilities or what it's designed for, you're gonna start having issues with. And that's what we've ran into. So we can only cut 3 an hour, and the results a lot of it has to do with the air assist fan. And getting a lot of errors there. We're just pushing it further than it's designed to go. So that is why it was time to upgrade. because of this product. And this is something that we're looking to expand with other designs, and we're capped out with the Glowforge. So there'll be videos coming up where I go over this machine. I have not cut a lantern yet with this machine. We literally just got it set up and did one test, but I will let you know what changes, how this laser changes things, and be a lot of videos coming up about this laser. All right, so one thing this laser requires is a 6-inch dust exhaust. It comes with everything you need, but I needed a place to let the exhaust go out. So what I did was I cut a hole in this door and put a blast gate, a 6-inch blast gate in here, so we can open and close. So close, open, and it looks really good on the other side too. The door is still functional. This was a lot better option than cutting a hole through the wall and going through siding and all of that. The other electrical circuit that I had to add is this one right here. That's a 20 amp circuit, 110, and that's what this laser requires, a dedicated 110 volt, 20 amp circuit. And luckily we had the room and capacity in our box here to add that. Wasn't very difficult to do. Obviously, disclaimer, if you're doing any electrical yourself, make sure you look at your local codes and or hire someone, a professional, to do it. Luckily, capacity-wise, we are okay. We had room in our breaker box, and this is a 200 amp panel, and we're not in any danger or anything, but we basically can't add anything else to this electrical setup. So that's a consideration going forward. You know, if we get another machine or get a bigger machine or something, like something's gonna have to go in order for it to come, and or we're gonna have to get into a different space. So we're pretty much at our limit for our residential electrical. So the last thing you want to do is to buy a machine and you don't have the electrical for it. So if you're ever upgrading, make sure you look at the electrical requirements of the machine. That's kind of what I designed, or kind of how I picked the machines that I picked, is do I have the capability? And then the other thing that's on its way is a mini split for this space. So I have to do a little bit of insulation work on the garage door and kind of seal up this door. But this space will be heated and cooled. I'm really concerned about the heating right now, just because I've got the water chiller in here, and to be able to work out here in the winter. I live in a climate where it does get cold at night, so that is a consideration. All right, so there are 3 things that I still need to do to finish up this space. One of them being the dust shoe, which is in the works. The other one being a workstation right here that can hold the tools for the CNC and the tools for the laser. I'm thinking of doing a tool chest with a worktop that can have the computer on it. So that will finish out this space that I'm currently standing in. The last thing I want to tell you about is this cool paint job my wife did. She came up with this on her own. I told her to have some fun and kind of geometric brand colors, and this is what she came up with, and I absolutely love it. I hope you do too. We kind of went with, on one wall we went with not as busy, and then more busy over here to kind of, you know, break things up a little bit. But a really cool paint design, and it really frames the Avid CNC and just brings the whole space together. I'm really excited and extremely grateful to have this additional space. I'm extremely blessed to have a wife that has allowed andybirdbuilds to literally take over the house. First, I took over the basement, complete basement. I've had the basement now for 4 years, and now I've taken over 2/3 of the garage, and I've taken over our formal dining room. So literally, when I say that this has taken over our house, it really has taken over our house. So again, I will put all the links that I talked about today down in the description below if you want to check them out. As always, thank you so much for continuing to watch my videos, and I will see you in the next one.